involved in PSYOP.
I was here from the beginning. It all started with asking trust.
Oh God, this is where all began.
Yeah. But I think I was there for that, right? Because you would chat. I think it was.
Do you play Rush?
Like, I think the genuine troll, but like it's, he just gives off vibes of someone who's actually like doing those things, you know what I mean?
That's actually great.
Also, Paradox, did you get like another mic or something? What
do you mean?
That was like really high gain and noisy, and
I'll take a guitar.
We could hear every single lip smack if you fucking do it.
Yeah, I was just again.
Yeah, I had my fucking like noise suppression off, and I just realized that. Now it's off. Sorry. I had to off because I have my fucking guitar running to my interface.
Right.
I had to turn that. I should trade another Discord account strictly on guitar so it filters out everything else. So that if I try to talk, if I don't talk in the same tone as a guitar, I just fucking don't talk at all. Yeah, the guitar noise. Like guitar. I don't think vocal cords can do that. I don't know. I don't have 6 vocal cords.
Maybe you should get
that. It was you my bad.
Yeah. I mean, you have 9 vocal
I have 9 what?
You have 9 vocal cords, actually.
Oh, right, but like, I don't have like E, A, B, G, B, E.
I mean, you might. Try.
I think if I had that, I feel like if I had that, I'd be way richer than I am now.
What does that mean? The guitar sound like it.
It's awfully tight.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah, it's nice.
It was interesting.
It's like the.
Wait, Mike, were you listening the whole time?
Mike was here
Well,
talking to him.
we hear all the time that
Talking to.
Oh my God, I didn't even realize Mike was here.
That's so funny.
yeah, we do first we're just religious and and everything else. I also want to religious is a small part, or a big part. It's branded wisdom. It's mixed in with a lot of chaff. It's so weak and chaff because you say that the Bible might be written by a madman or something. Because there are parts that make sense and parts that don't make any sense. And it's basically a bunch of it's not something that's made by one person, by a whole bunch of different people. Yeah. A whole bunch of different people. Each one has its own style. There are all these nonsensical parts, like something with lots of hands or something. Some really crazy parts that I've seen mentioned. I never read the thing myself. I went to little lectures and things. They said it doesn't. It's sort of a mix of things. It was one of the, I think it was one of the first books back in the early days that they have copied by monks who copied by and copied it, and then later on they made a good one. It's the only one of the very few. It's one of the books that are in the public domain. It's not copyrighted. So sometimes they use it. They play around with it. I guess they run into the various frontiers to do experiments. It's not copyrighted.
And by the way, Mike, how old are you? He's curious.
Well, I'm 75.
Oh.
Well,
We got some life experience.
Yeah. No, the thing is, it's a, you get as old as I am, you get kind of jaded, kind of want, to go beyond, the pale of the mainstream.
Yeah. You get what he called wisdom.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what that guy might
Like,
yeah, that guy doesn't know.
like his wisdom compared to Mike is like uncomparable scales.
Mike is basically God.
Well, the thing about AI is that AI, the problem with AI is as strong as its database. Like the problem with AI uses, if you want to look up classical information, you can't do it AI because it's too messy. You see that the database, the knowledge base that AI uses is based on urban legends and popular lore. I don't know which one of those things is science. But, if you want something that's science-based, you have to use classical information. Like, even then it's not very true, and you have to go back and run deeper with some kind of filter. So the problem with this science and tech, something I never knew before, that science and technology as culture and tradition. What that, and they say that tradition is often mightier than innovation. That's that piece of wisdom in itself. That basically, it said that people don't tend to go outside the box or think outside the box. Their thinking is kind of rigid into a bunch of tradition that's kind of like that. So it's one of the things I discovered in my life that if you limit yourself to tradition, you can actually start to innovate. There are many people with new ideas and they don't seem to innovate or create new. I have some that, like these little flashlights that I use. They're focused hand filter, and they're great for looking at things in the world. You can actually, shine it into a bunch of water and you're trying to, like if you're getting spring, you go to a restaurant, you want to know what the water is, what kind of water they're serving you. Shine this 3 nanometer UV light, puts up about 3 watts per square centimeter. It's focused, so it puts on in a spot, it puts on about 3 watts per square centimeter, 265 nanometers. And you can see a little area, the light goes through the water, and it's kind of an azure color or a purplish color. Means it's got a lot of dissolved organic solids in it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's something you can't buy it in the store. If you try to look for it on the web, it doesn't exist. All I did was take a UV flashlight, put a relay lens, focus the light back into focus the image of the dye of the UV LED, try to focus it, re-image the dye in the water, and then you see what kind of water it is. And I I looked on the web and I couldn't find anything like it. But are you still out there?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I noticed a guy that has his icon, the one that had all this weird religion. There's something called Sports AK or something like that would be some kind of military looking thing. I mean, I don't know what kind of mentality that is.
About the like innovation and whatever else, I didn't quite understand what the thing was about earlier. I didn't understand whatever riddle he was making up. Yesterday, he came to this VC. He said he had been searching around with ChatGPT and had figured out from like ancient cultures how to use amber to make free energy and power something. And of course, he was blonde-skinned and like it's not possible, but I found it really odd.
you know, some kind of crackpot. Like, you know,
Yeah.
people don't, you don't have your, you don't know, you know, science and physics. You don't really know what the background of the things. So they don't have any experience. They haven't worked with the materials themselves using their hands. And they say that one who has knowledge, but there's a Confucian version. The Confucian version of it is one who has knowledge but no experience. It's like having wings but no feet. That's the Confucian proverb. And then of course, you know, I have a friend that was able to manipulate this piece of paper a strange way and change the message so that the message reads, one who works for struggle for their knowledge needs experience. And that was a really interesting thing. And so all my knowledge, I did learn a lot of the knowledge I got was not from school. School, higher education. The school, it's really cool. And it's free. Forgot the car. Have you ever heard of that one before?
No.
Yeah, well, that's, that's just something that I, found in another place. But anyway, it's, because you know what, school is really cool, but it's free, but they got the art. You know what that means? Or when you take the word free, the art, what does it look like?
It's V. It's called it's a V.
Yeah. So that's the weird thing about it. So I really don't like that part of the thing. I learned most of my knowledge on my own, rather than through school. And one of the classic things is that it seems like science is based on a tradition of fragmentation and abstraction, which just seems to be a really weird thing. I never could understand it. Have you ever heard of the two waves that are opposite at 180 degrees in phase cancel each other? Have you ever seen that particular thing? I never could understand it because in physics you cannot create, you can either create or destroy energy matter. And it goes against the conservation of energy or anything like that. And the reason that it looks like that is because this statement about the 180 degrees on the face is a very piece of information. It's like you take in science or anything you study, you tend to cut things up into little pieces. And you try to make the sense out of individual pieces. But they don't really work, as pieces. They work as a whole. And, so you have to look at the entire system. So you have two waves of cancer. You only a mathematical point. The energy really moves in different ways.
Yeah, exactly. For example, two speakers that are running out of phase, the audio vanishes, but it's just turned into heat where the waves collide.
Well, there's nothing turned into heat. It just goes, if it's entirely reflected, it just doesn't use any electrical power. So there's a whole concept. We have to think of the system in its entirety. And the reason that waves can cancel another, and they have actually little or no effect on each other until you come into a summing junction. If you have the wires that are connected, three resistors that are connected to a common juncture, like
Yeah.
with the voltage, it appears between the two resistors will not be one voltage or the other, but will be the summing junction is the wire between the two resistors in series. That's a summing junction, and you measure that. That's where there's two waves that cancel. The summing, you have to have a thing for the light to shine on, and it's the one light will do one thing and one will do the other thing. And so if it cancels, it doesn't really cancel; it just moves into a different place. It's like like if you plow a field and you use a plow, it removes the dirt, the furrows, and then it pushes the dirt to each side. So you can't really destroy matter slash energy. You just simply move it to some other place. It just is the place where it was. Or you do that operation. It just moves it. You don't. what you're seeing is a very minuscule, which I never determined which one it is, very part of the situation. Rather, I think of the system as a whole. If you look at the system as a whole, it makes much more sense. If you look at it in its pieces, it doesn't make any sense at all. So that's
Of course, looking at it as a whole is not possible always. It's too complex.
well, it's not too complex. Well, what it is look at it as a whole, but you then try to simplify it, but even that fragments the thing. Like if you have
And also to begin learning about it, you've got to start with the pieces. You can't do it all at the same time.
Well, the problem is the pieces by themselves make no sense. It's like if you have a motion picture film and you have a lot of little, individual frames, you know, sometimes if you take the frames are too far apart, it will make little or no sense if the frames are too far apart.
Yeah.
That's take a movie film. I don't know if you ever seen movie films. It's kind of like a
Not in real life, but I've seen it. Yeah.
film movie cameras. They make a thing with lots of pictures, one next to each other. But if you take two of them that are sufficiently far apart, you will bear no relationship to each other, visually.
It's like two different pictures, but if there are two frames next to one another, you see that something moved by a tiny bit only. So it's a part of the video.
Yeah. The pictures in a motion picture film. But the thing is like, for example, quantum entanglement, is an example of this. It's where they show that somehow these two things are related to each other. But they don't tell you that it has a single origin. Like, if you take a piece of paper, like a piece of standard writing paper, and you were to rip it into two pieces across the grain, so it makes a lot of jagged tears in it, as opposed to a nice tear. Then if you send one piece over to San Francisco and another one over to New York, people, each person who has this piece of paper will know what the other half looks like because it has a single point of origin. There's a thing. It started out with one piece of paper, gets torn, one gets sent to San Francisco, and one gets sent to New York. So what do you think? That's a whole quantum thing. That's why they think it's faster than light, whatever the heck it is. It starts with a single local origin. They always try to make you look at only the end products, but not the origin of the thing.
It's a fuck. Okay.
Interesting.
It existed as one piece of paper, and at some point, if you look at pictures all separate, photographs of them, you look at one person, they'll have this piece of paper torn from another one. They will instantly know what the other half looks like. The same thing, as far as the shape of the piece of paper. And the paper has writing in it, then you might be able to, if you have only half the writing, you might be able to guess. This is the probabilistic part, what the writing on the other half of the piece of paper would look like. Bear in mind, it's torn, goes across the sentences, so you have to. So that's the whole idea behind that thing. It's kind of nice to be able to turn it into a simple as opposed to something complicated and cerebral.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, the problem with AI is it uses urban legends and popular lore for its database. Or better known, is you can use AI to look up popular information. But if it's classical information, it just falls flat on its face. It just doesn't know one thing from another thing. Classical information. Well, physics, but it develops its wisdom from popular lore or urban legend.
Physics is cursed.
not because of physics itself. But bear in mind that physics, or any subject, is governed by. This is the part I never knew that existed. It threw me across the room and shocked me. It's basically that science and technology contains
Oh fuck.
culture and tradition. And it's often the culture and tradition that screws up the science. So in order to really use the science, you have to remove the culture and tradition from it. You can see the science, in its own standard.
That's what was about earlier that I didn't understand. I didn't get how those could be related to science.
Well, because science, for example,
Oh,
welding
fuck.
is a kind of technology
God
for
damn.
joining metals.
Yeah.
But if you look, like I asked the question, why don't people make rated chassis boxes or boxes for enclosing their projects? Like when you build an electronics thing, a lot of people just say it's done with just a circuit board in a shoebox with clip leads or wires to the the controls that are taped to the edges of the cardboard box. And they say
Yeah, one thing about that Mr. Diode gun. I've learned most of my electrical stuff from him. He used to say sometimes a temporary solution turns into a permanent solution.
Yeah, but the problem
I quite
is
like that.
yeah, but the problem is janky. And what I hate is really janky things because they fall apart. Like if you
Yes.
drag this around and move it all over the table or take it to another room and you have constantly handle it, the wires will break off. If you could just make some kind of a chassis or a box go around the electronics project, then all the wires will be they won't be moving in relation to each other. They'd be in some kind of enclosure that holds all the things together. And that's the problem is when you put things together jankily. Have you ever heard of the word jank before? Jank.
Yes.
Well, I hate janky things because when you try to do anything with them, they fall apart. Why does it fall apart?
I wonder.
So so maybe you just put a bunch of glop, a bunch of epoxy, just pour a whole bunch of epoxy into the thing until it's just like a brick. Then you might be able to use it until you have to fix it. And you can't fix it because you can't open it up. You just pour a bunch of foam or something just to keep the parts from moving. And then the wires will bend and then they'll break off where the wires connect to the parts. That's where the wires love to break off. But if you make a chassis, if they don't make a chassis box, the thing because welding is so powerful, it would just melt the sheet metal because most welders are really, really powerful. But if you made it a little bit weaker, a little bit not so powerful, then you could do something, make a little chassis box. And I've done a lot of those. I made a special welder that is designed to work on things like that. The only reason that you can't use welding to make a chassis box is that welding has a culture and a tradition. And that culture and tradition is called machismo career. Have you ever heard of machismo career before?
No.
Korea?
Yeah, machismo career. That means if you want to learn how to weld, you have to have tattoos. You have to have a short mullet haircut.
Yeah.
You have to have way too many cars or a tractor.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense, does it? When I look at YouTube videos, I see a lot of people. I like welding because I'm doing all kinds of things. I even fix my phone. I fixed my phone, two televisions, and an oscilloscope with my welder. If I didn't have my welder, all I could do is wish for things, which doesn't work very well. Oh, welding gave me the ability to make steel structures, which are very, very strong. A lot of my contemporaries make things out of wood, you know, and the most sometimes out of plastic. the plastic won't take heat, and it won't. It's not very strong. The plastic. Everybody loves 3D printers, and I can never understand the 3D printer thing. You know,
It's just really convenient. You just take whatever you have, you measure it out, you click one button, you come back an hour later after doing electronics works already, and the box is ready. You just put the electronics in it, and
but it's not very strong. I can step on one of my steel boxes. It's very thin. It's thin, but it's very strong, and it won't collapse. If I step on a 3D printed box, it might collapse unless it's got a lot of infill.
It depends on what the settings are. I participated in BattleBots, not the English version, but the Estonian version in my county. And the battery compartment had to withstand 100 G's of force. It was 3D printed, and we took quite a bit of hits with the battle robot, but the battery was sturdily held in with the 3D printed part. But that's all because I used a 50% infill and like 5 millimeter thick walls. So it's all about the settings.
Sign and security.
If I make it out of
Holy
steel, welded steel box, it's going to be a lot strong. It's going to be a lot stronger. It has screw place where the lid would bolts together, or a channel, make it so that it doesn't just depend on the strength of the screw bolts. If I made it out of decent thick steel, it'll be a lot stronger than the plastic. It won't burn either. So I can fix it. I can make a box like that in about probably less than 5 minutes. I can plasma cut them into squares, and then I weld them together. So I can build them faster and stronger. The problem with 3D printing is I usually don't have a complete set of blueprints for the thing. I design as I build, and you can't do that with any type of NC process because you have to have a complete set of blueprints for the thing. And I have
to think forward when I do that. When I design 3D printer files, I have to think quite far ahead with where I'm gonna go. I have to redesign sometimes.
Yeah, for some stuff like that, I'll specifically leave areas where I think I might need some holes for switches in the future or something like that.
Well, sometimes you change the design. You want to change the design, and you can't just plasma cut some hole in it or cut it and add another part of it. It's not like you have to start all over again. And it takes. If I put a 3D printer and I put instead of using 120 volts, maybe 20 amp, maybe 5 amps. I don't know. If I put several thousand kilowatts into a 3D printer, will it make the part faster? But put hundreds of kilowatts of electricity into it.
It's not about the electrical consumption. The 3D printers consume energy or kilowatt hours because of how long they run and how much power is lost with the heat bed because it's constantly being cooled by the air. If it makes it faster, it actually consumes less.
Yeah. Well, I can't, so the problem is, can you make metal parts? I mean, I've seen people do lost wax or lost wax casting. They make a 3D print a wax thing, and then they put it in plaster Paris, and then they burn out
Metal printers
you can. Yeah, but that's the proper ones which are laser sinter printers, which can be powerful. And it sinters into the middle of the laser, and then puts another layer of pink powder on top of it. And scans the
laser cutter. You just place the bed on an elevator, and then you have a thing that puts the center. You have to put everything up with argon gas so that it won't oxidize.
Yeah, that's a
process.
For this one, using plastic filaments, but it's got the